Hello and welcome to another episode of Internet Marketing Revealed. My guest today is Matt Channell. He's an online marketer from Wales in the United Kingdom, and he's very new to the industry overall. He actually only began online marketing earlier in 2020. However, he's had some major success in the past few months. So that's what we're going to have a chat about today. Now, this is going to be an interesting chat for me personally because Matt and I are quite close geographically. I wouldn't say we're neighbors as such. We're probably about 20 minutes away from each other. But I think for that reason alone, this is going to be quite an interesting chat for me. I initially wanted to get Matt on an episode because I knew he was fairly new at online marketing overall, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to get to know him a bit better overall. However, since we've booked this call in the past couple of weeks or so, things have really kicked on for him, and he's actually now generated around $8,500 in profit within the last 50 days or so. Now, he's generated this income completely organically. He's not paying for any advertising at all. So I'm now intrigued to find out exactly what he's been doing and what changed for him in these past few weeks, which has seen that huge increase in affiliate income. So first of all, Matt, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Now, Matt did send me a far more formal and bookish introduction initially, but given what's happened in his affiliate marketing business over the past couple of weeks alone, I thought I'd put that on standby and let Matt talk about that himself when the time comes during the course of the conversation today. But I thought that talking about the affiliate stuff right at the top would really set the tone for this episode. So that's the reason why I haven't used the introduction that you gave me. But I'm sure you're okay with that overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so before we get into the affiliate marketing side of things, if you could just give us a bit of background about yourself. Feel free to go into as much detail as you want in terms of Welsh geography, even if it's just to indulge me personally. Anybody else listening who's not familiar with South Wales geography, they can just look it up on Google Maps or something like that. But yeah, if you could just give us a little bit of your history to begin with, that would be great.
Okay, so I live in South Wales, again, kind of the bottom half of the UK. I suppose where I'm living is really close to the seaside. So there's a place called Ogmore and Sundown, and we get down there with the kids a lot. Really nice beach and lots of walks to be had, lots of sheep running out in front of your car and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a really nice area. There's some lovely places to see. So yeah, it's that's kind of where I'm from. In terms of a bit about me, I guess I co-own a training business, a corporate training business. We offer things like leadership, management training, health and safety. I've probably been there about 13, 14 years now. I started as a business manager and kind of worked my way up in the business. There came an option for a management buyout, and that was my kind of chance to get in. So there's 4 of us now that own the business, and that's going from strength to strength, really. I suppose, like everyone, COVID brought a lot of problems. I suppose, back April 2020 now. And I think at that time we were, probably the word is petrified. I think we really didn't know what that held for us, where we were going to go with the business. Because people obviously couldn't get face-to-face training anymore, we had to really, the word is touted quite a lot, but we had to pivot and we had to change how we were doing things. So we were doing a lot more virtual training. We were looking into e-learning, and I suppose historically we'd been very much a face-to-face business. Everything was done in classrooms, I suppose is the word. And so, yeah, we had to change everything we did really overnight. We had to find out how we could deliver virtual training, the different softwares, etc. Yeah, we just had to really I suppose, dig deep and find different ways of doing things. But we went from being petrified to having the best year commercially that we've had since I joined the business 13 years ago. So, I'm counting my lucky stars, really, because it could have been a lot worse. And, and I think we were really worried as well about job losses. We've got 60 to 70 staff. So that was a big worry for us, is, kind of how we were going to keep people in jobs, and then obviously the impact it would have on people that we had to let go. But luckily, we probably only, I suppose, we let go 2 or 3 people out of those 60. I think it was 65 at the time. So, yeah, well, that was a really good outcome for us. So that's kind of the business background. I've got 2 children, 2 girls, Aurelia and Bella. They're 4 and 7. They keep me extremely busy, spend most of my time carting them to dance and living in the dance center, but it gives me a bit of time to do some work. So on my affiliate business, which is a good time. So yeah, I spend a lot of time. And my wife, Hannah, she's got a small business that she's just set up, and she does watercolors and creates cards and prints and things like that. So I've kind of tried to help her do that side of things as well, which has been quite enjoyable, sort of building Shopify websites and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's quite varied. In terms of an interesting fact, I did a forensic science degree following watching lots of CSI programs and studying science at school, and it seemed an obvious thing to do at the time. But British forensic science isn't anything like American forensic science, which I wanted to get into. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Excellent. Yeah. So it sounds like you've got some, varied interest there, and it's interesting what you say about the business that your wife has just set up as well. There, so you've got some transferable skills there from what you've been learning online to help her get set up as well. But I don't think that's the only like interesting hobby that you have as well. I mean, living in Wales, we're never short of a hill to climb up, but that wasn't enough for you, judging
No.
by some of the photos that you've got on your Facebook profile there. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, trying to think how long ago it was now. Probably going on 2 years now. I went to Nepal and did the Annapurna circuit trek, basically a 21 day trek. I would say 16 of those days were actually hiking and going up hills and doing that sort of stuff. We went up to sort of 5,500 meters above sea level. Lots of snow, lots of varied conditions, everything from driving rain to, the coldest of snow, and waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning to go up a hill, only to come back down again, to have to do it all over again the next day. So it was all about, avoiding altitude sickness and those sorts of things. So, but yeah, it was just an amazing trip. It was something I'd always wanted to do. I'd never traveled when I was a student, and I was very, very lucky that my wife said I could go. So yeah, just the culture, everything about the place was just fantastic. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah. So you say you never traveled or anything like that when you were younger. I mean, that I'm the same. I have to be honest, that never really interested me that
Yeah.
much. But to do, mountain climbing is quite extreme. I mean, have you always been into the sports side of things like that, extreme sports, or was this like a one-off thing that you just decided that you were going to do?
Yeah, very much went off, and I suppose it wasn't climbing in the sense of grappling onto walls and things. It was very much very, very steep hiking. So you've got your spikes on your shoes to get up the hills, and that side of things really. But I guess I've always been sporty, always played a lot of rugby when I was younger. And yeah, just enjoyed being active, I guess. And I felt like this was a challenge that I really wanted to sort of get. I'm getting older and not playing sport anymore, and I felt it was just an extra thing I needed to kind of tick off. So yeah, that's kind of what drove it. And again, just to see different things. I say I didn't travel when I was a kid. I was very lucky with rugby that we went to all sorts of places. We went to Australia, all of the sort of lots of the European countries. I went to Canada. So yeah, I have seen lots of places, but I guess when you're playing rugby, you're limited as to what you do when you're actually in those countries. There was a lot of billeting, so we went to stay with people, and so yeah, great experiences. But I needed that challenge, that extra, the bit that Annapurna circuit brought.
Yeah. Was there any life-changing experiences or anything that you discovered about yourself that perhaps you weren't aware that was there when you went on this trek to Nepal?
Um, the toileting situation was extremely interesting. Um, yeah, I'm kind of always have been a guy for sort of the mod cons, and I won't say luxury, but I always like to be in very clean conditions and that sort of thing. So that was a bit of a change, but I think having to live in those circumstances, and I think going through those sorts of things, and we were live, I suppose, going to sleep, going at the excuse me, lost my train of thought, going to bed at night. We were sleeping on basically pallet boards, with very thin mattresses, extremely cold, just a thin wooden wall, between you and the outside, -1 conditions and beyond. It was just absolutely freezing. But that discomfort, I think, taught me a lot. That you can really get out of your comfort zone. It was just, I suppose, one of those scenarios which you would never see yourself in before. But as well, seeing how other people just get on with life. They live in those conditions day in, day out, and it's just, they just very happy people, can never do enough for you. It was just a pleasure to be there, and I guess meet those people and see how much they would go out of their way just to kind of make you comfortable, and yeah, it was just that side of things. I think was fantastic. It really was.
Yeah, so it sounds like that you got a lot out of that trip, and it seems like it was very worth your while in going. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be able to handle that myself. I think I'm one for the luxuries and the mod cons as well, and I don't think I'd do so well in the cold. I think I'd be okay with the hiking part, but perhaps not the sleeping on a pallet, the howling wind,
Yeah.
-1 degrees.
Yeah. And
Doesn't sound that appealing.
there's that 2 a.m. bit in the morning, you got or 3 a.m. I think it was. You're waking up and you have to go out in that, in the snow. But also just things like going to the toilet in the middle of the night. It is so, so cold. And and without being too graphic, these are squatting toilets. You're not actually able to, do this comfortably. And yeah, it was a real experience. But yeah, definitely something I would say to anyone, if you've got the opportunity to do something like that, just make it happen, because it's something to remember for the rest of your life. And you get great photos.
Yeah, yeah, your photos did look pretty good actually, so it was worth it for that alone.
Yes,
Get some social media photos on.
indeed.
Okay, so you did that about 2 years ago then. Presumably that was before all of this COVID situation hit?
Yes, yeah, it was probably the April before, actually. It was probably the year before that. So it's been quite a while, actually.
Okay, so you're back home now, and you've decided then to take these first few steps into online marketing. Now, what I wanted to ask you was because of the role that you have day to day. You're a co-owner of a business. It sounds like it's a pretty successful business overall. And being the boss, you've got all of the responsibility and the workload and the pressure that goes with that, because you're not just responsible for yourself. You're responsible for all your employees and everything else that goes with that. On top of that, you've got an active home life as well. You've got a wife, you've got children. Why did you then decide that you wanted to take those initial steps into online marketing? Because usually it's people who are in, let's say, a more difficult situation, and they're looking for a way to get out of that situation and to better their life, for them and for their family. So what was the motivation for yourself to get involved?
Besides being glutton for punishment, I think deep down, I've always been very entrepreneurial. So if I go back to when I was 19 years old, I think it was, when I first sort of stepped into, I think it was multi-level marketing, it was called at the time, or network marketing. So I started off with a company called Tiscali Internet, just reselling an internet product, really. So paid my money up front, got my big file through. I was really excited, all these scripts on how to speak to people, how to go into direct selling opportunities and that sort of thing. So that's where I started. I kind of went through a series of businesses like that. Herbalife being one of them, and that was a really interesting experience. I did a live yesterday, and I was talking about kind of how socially awkward I felt as a kid. I got anxiety whenever I kind of met someone new and those sorts of things. So I really, really did struggle with those things. Although I had that entrepreneurial spirit, I think when I actually came to get into these businesses and have to, I suppose, execute and talk to people, it's quite a difficult thing to really, I suppose, do on a day-to-day basis. So I just continued with that, really, that entrepreneurial spirit. I got to the point where I felt like I needed to get a job. I did pretty well with Herbalife in the grand scheme of things, but it just wasn't natural. I didn't believe in the product as much as I should if I was promoting it, and that kind of didn't sit well with me. So I got a job. I went to university, got a job, and then I guess that probably took away a bit of that entrepreneurial spirit. I kind of lost it for a bit and just kind of dug in deep, worked really hard, got in some leadership positions, went and did an MBA, or a master's rather. And kind of that was my next step. Then I got into the job with the corporate training business, and that's where it, kind of got into owning the business. But I guess COVID really was the spark. With COVID, it meant that I had to go back to the kind of growing phase where I had to start learning new things. So again, because of the virtual side of it, there was e-learning I had to learn. We lost someone that was kind of crucial and central to our website at the time. So I started learning how to basically work on the website, how to do SEO. So I took some courses on SEO and got really involved in that and grew our traffic significantly. With the help of others. So it wasn't all me, but we had content writing going on. So I started writing lots and lots of content for blogs and just seeing the benefit of that, really. And I guess that spark just started to come back. I was feeling like I was really enjoying the online marketing side of things. I suppose I remembered what I felt like when I was doing that in that university period, I guess. So I started looking again, really. I had that shiny object syndrome back, and I was looking for all these sorts of things. But I suppose in my head was still that get rich quick idea. I could find something, and overnight I'd be, in the money, and there'd be no worries. But so yeah, I kind of jumped into affiliate marketing because that kind of came up. I'd heard about it before. I knew what it was. I sort of had an idea of how it worked, so it was kind of a natural progression. So yeah, I think that's what it was, really. And to answer the question properly, you said about being a business owner already, and I guess there's a difference between being almost a solopreneur, is the word I've seen bandied about, and actually working with other people. You've got the bureaucracy around decision making and not being able to do exactly what you want and what feels right for you. And while I love working with the guys I'm working with, it still didn't give me that buzz of this is me, this is about what I'm doing, and the people I can help individually, I guess, not just with a group of people behind me. So that was the driver, really. And it just, the way I've described it, scratched an itch that was there. It was something I really wanted to go and do. And because it was marketing, I quite like the creative side of things. I was enjoying the writing, so that was a natural fit as well. Technology I quite enjoy, so building little sort of bridge pages and all that sort of stuff that I was doing when I first came into it was really interesting for me. And yeah, so that's how I found my way, really.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you just said there, actually, especially with the the marketing scratching an itch. I like to think of myself as quite a creative person overall as well, and marketing has always been my creative release. And I assume that even though it sounded like you were doing some creative stuff with the company that you're a co-owner of at the moment, perhaps you still didn't have quite the same level of freedom to be creative like you can have with online marketing or affiliate marketing when you are that solopreneur, which is the phrase that you just used there. So yeah, I can totally relate to that because that's similar to me in many ways as well. So you started off with affiliate marketing then. So what were the first few steps you took into the affiliate marketing arena?
So the first, I suppose, the program I went into was, I suppose, predicated around a funnel and the idea of having kind of a really low end entry point via a book. Uh, it was lots of, I mean, the training was fantastic. There was so many different ways that you could market your business. Everything from solo ads to, using things like Google Ads and Bing. Organic marketing was in there and covered quite heavily. But there was just so many things, and I think being someone that has that natural shiny object syndrome, I was just pulled in so many directions, I think, and for me, it just created a huge amount of overwhelm. I think trying to do it at the same time as running another business and having family obligations, that was the difficult bit. I think I just there was too many pulls, and I just ended up in a bit of a it was like a whirlwind for 2 or 3 months. I just didn't know where I was, and yeah, I certainly enjoyed it, and I learned a lot in those early days, but it didn't sit right with me what I was marketing, and I didn't feel like it was right for new people, and they were the people at the time I was trying to target. And they were coming in, and again, I just felt, I'm a guy who's done a lot of marketing in my own business. I've got experience running businesses, but people were coming in with none of that experience and being thrown into that kind of position where there's lots of things to learn and do. I thought, if I'm struggling and I'm getting caught up in that, then I can only imagine what those people are having to do. So again, that just didn't sit right with me. My values kind of weren't being ticked, and I felt like it was time to move on. But at the time, I didn't know where to go, and I suppose that marks the next transition, really, for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, because even though you're new, and we'll say new in inverted commas there, to the online marketing industry, as you've just said there yourself, you still have a lot of online marketing experience
Mhm.
within your own company. So you understand the principles of marketing, you understand how to create content, you know how to put web pages together, all of these things that I think it's easy to take for granted, especially when you have other people who come into the industry who are completely new, can barely turn on a computer new. And
Yeah.
then they're expected then to just get involved in a system, and they've got absolutely no idea what to do next because they've been sold the dream that it's going to be this push button solution where they just pay their money to get in, and then money is just going to come to them
Yeah.
out of thin air. And of course, we all know that that doesn't happen.
I could see that a lot of people were struggling. I could just see, for instance, in the Facebook groups, I could see the questions people were asking. They were just such, um, I suppose, low level questions. But for people to be struggling with those, I thought they're never ever going to get to the point where they can make an honest income out of, in this business. I say never, but it would take them such a long time and such a huge amount of work. And some of these people, like me, were working a 9 to 5. So trying to do that on top of everything else they have in their lives, I just couldn't honestly get into conversations and sell that to people. um and the way some of these things were marketed was just how simple it was, and I thought, going in to set up new websites, and although these systems are made to make it easier, it's still not simple, and there's so many things like setting up your domain names and then attaching them to the builder or the website builder you're using. There's just so many things that are actually on their own quite complicated, and then when you try to knit them together and create this almost marketing ecosystem, I just felt like, there's just no way this is going to work for people who are coming into it new. So that was the huge thing, I guess. And again, that even for me, all of those moving parts, I felt like I wasn't getting traction because I was trying to fight on too many fronts. And when you've got 2 hours per night to work on your business, you need to have, real clarity on what it is you're doing. You need to be doing things that are moving the needle, not faffing around with a website and changing colors and fonts and, getting all that stuff done. It's just, it was way too slow. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you did get something out of that experience anyway, because it showed you what you didn't want to be involved in,
It
if
did, yeah.
if nothing else. So I'm glad that you didn't waste too much time overall on that. What was the thing that you moved on to next then after that?
So it was high ticket affiliate marketing and purely organic. So I got talking to a guy, fantastic guy, and he just, I suppose, I really liked his style, and I suppose I resonated with that style, the way he was talking. There was no hard sell. It was really just exploring what my pain points were, the problems I was having. And he really, I suppose, fit a solution to what I was feeling at the time and explained to me how it could be different. Obviously, explained the difference between almost having a ladder program where you're kind of trying to get people into a low end product and hoping that they ascend the ladder through different forms of follow up, etc. Um, and showed me that, you know, it's, I say this carefully because a lot of people disagree with these things, but showing me that it's not that much more difficult, if it is more difficult at all, to sell a high ticket product compared to a low ticket product. And my experience from that point has actually been that I find it easier to sell high ticket programs than I do the low ticket ones. I don't know if that's because perhaps the target market resonates more with my sort of approach and the way I come across. Perhaps I don't know if it's that, or whether it is simply just an easier thing to sell. I guess the people who are looking at those products generally are ready to buy that sort of thing. You know, they're perhaps a lot more serious. They're not just sort of coming into the market and thinking, you know, I want to make money very quickly. I want to do it overnight. I want to buy a Porsche in a week. You know, that kind of that angle. So, yeah, I think that's just how I felt about it at the time, and I think that the way he explained it to me and what he showed me was exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point there as well, because if you're marketing the high ticket products, then yeah, as you say, you're going to be marketing them to those people who are in a position where they're ready to invest in such a program, rather than the really low ticket stuff that you see on, the Warrior Pluses and the JV Zoos, the $7 magic bullets,
The
which
garden
people purchase
special.
over and over again, and it never gets them anywhere. But then if you try to introduce somebody like that to a product which costs several $1,000s, then they're not going to be interested, because they're just looking at different sales pages every day, which is selling them the world for $7. And
Yeah,
they probably believe that if they keep buying enough of these $7 products, eventually they're going to hit that jackpot, and they're
something
going to
will
find
work.
they're going to find the solution to their problems there. So was the high ticket product that you talked about there, is that the one that you're still involved with now, or was that, say, the first entry into the high ticket affiliate marketing?
I think I was really lucky in that. I think, again, lots of people would argue these points, but I think I found what for me is one of the premier kind of organic marketing programs, led by a fantastic guy. But yeah, I just think the training is second to none. It is really strong training. But I have gone on since, and I promote that program still for the right people. But I was looking then for that extra sort of high touch mentoring and coaching. So I moved on to another program. uh, I suppose actually the first step was that I went into a masterclass from the person who offers this coaching program, and that made a huge difference to what I was doing at the time. But then I went into this coaching program, but it was that extra level of support I needed, and I needed to invest. And I think, again, I just found another person I resonated with, and that I could. I think I saw something in them that I see in myself, that they were very systematic and structured. They kind of like that approach to things, and I think at the time that's what I needed, because of those 2 hours that I'm able to work every day. I needed that time to be so well spent, that I needed that kind of real strategic plan, I guess, to work to, and perhaps going a bit further than the daily action plan. I needed to really understand why I was doing those things and kind of the logic behind it.
Okay, yeah. So you went, on a deeper level overall, which explained those things to you, which you weren't getting from another program, which might not have gone into maybe similar subject matter, but not in as great a depth. So just before we kind of get into, the big changing point for you, where everything started to click into place, there might be some listeners who aren't really familiar with the whole organic marketing thing. So can you just give a very like basic explanation of what you do on any given day?
So I guess there's four main areas. So something that was really important to me coming in was the mindset side of things, because in this business, and I'm sure you'll agree, or you may not, but it'd be good to get your point of view on it, is the mindset is everything. And where you come up against so many roadblocks in this business, and there's so many things that can throw you off course, that getting that mindset bit right is really important. But I'll get off that quickly because that's not strictly organic. Then I think it's getting onto the offer, understanding how to create really strong offers, because obviously you're trying to sell them organically. You need to make sure that you're able to, one, understand what you're offering and whether it can actually solve people's problems and pain points, and then be able to kind of get that out there in a way that is compelling for people, that they really understand what you're offering. So I think that was a key area for me, and something that I really dug into and continue to do so, because I'm a million miles off where I want to be in terms of the offers I'm putting out. So that's something that I really want to work on. Then I think it's kind of the audience growth. It's really understanding how to build a strong audience that's targeted. And I think that's probably one of the most important parts, because again, if you're targeting the wrong people, they ain't buying. It's as simple as that. So that's something I think is really important. And then there's the conversion side. Obviously, you need to be creating content that people are engaging with. Again, I think it needs to be compelling. It needs to really grab people's attention, but it obviously needs them to start wanting to come and talk to you for whatever reason, again, depending on what your offer is. But I think that part is really important, getting that content. And then there's the conversion side of organic. So once you get into conversations with people, it's, I guess, saying the right things. But first off, it starts with building relationships and rapport. And then once you've kind of built those relationships, it's moving on to those, I suppose, the pitch, and getting to a point where you're able to, I've probably gone on a step, but it's diagnosing people's needs in those conversations and really understanding what it is they need. How can they move forward? What are their goals and where they're trying to get to? And once you understand that, it's then recommending the right things. And I think for me, a big part of my values is being authentic and true to myself. And once I understand those problems, if I can't solve the problem, I'm either signposting to someone who can help them that I've got no connection to, or I'm just saying that this isn't something I can help with. And that's happened quite a few times with people who they're perhaps long-term coaches. They've already got their business to a point, they're looking to scale to perhaps £2 million, big numbers, and I'm just saying, look, I'm not at that point yet. It's I'm a million miles off that, but I can sort of direct them to people who I think may be able to help them. And it's been good to start some of those conversations between people and help them move forward. But yeah, so that's kind of organic for me. That's how I see it. But I suppose the main thing is not spending money on ads.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that was a really good explanation there. I mean, just to give everybody listening some context, we're doing most of the organic side of things on Facebook and using our organic profile rather than spending money on ads, because we do get a reasonable organic reach compared to some other platforms there. But when you were saying that, a question did come up, so I want to put this one to you. So, given your experience in your day job as such, how would you say then that diagnosing these training needs for people who are trying to get into affiliate marketing, how does that compare when you were diagnosing those training needs for the companies that you were working with? Is it the same thing, or is there a subtle difference?
I think there are subtle differences, but I think it's very similar in, I suppose, in approach when you're going into those conversations. Something I learned a long time ago, I read a book by a guy called Edgar Schein, I think it is. And it's called Humble Inquiry. And it's, even as a consultant, someone who really knows their game, when you're going into a business or you're talking to someone, the questions you ask should be coming from a point of almost knowing nothing. Even though you think you know the answers, you've got to try and put yourself in that position where you're really interested in the person. And I think the more authentic you can be about that, the better. But I think it's very similar in that when I'm diagnosing training needs with an organization, I'm very focused on what their goals are, what their objectives are, what their strategies are. Um, I think when you're talking to a person, obviously you're moving away from what are your strategies, where do you want to, but it's very much about what you want to achieve, what's your why, really. I think that's spoken about a lot, but I think that's really important to me. One of the things we do a lot with companies is we use Simon Sinek's work, which is, I don't know if you've seen it, but he's got a great video on getting to your why and understanding what that why is. And he explains that businesses who really understand their why are much more successful. So I think exactly the same with the person is getting to the root of, why they're doing what they're doing. Why are they coming into this business? But also, how you can help them, because obviously people are at different stages. You've got people who are new into the industry, but then you've got people who have perhaps invested in the similar sorts of programs that I've invested in, but perhaps they're feeling a little bit stuck. The common word used is wheel spinning. People are just doing the same things and not really going anywhere, potentially not learning at the same time. They're just making the same mistakes. So I think it's that approach of trying to unstick people, get them to move forward. And we do the same with organizations. They come to a point where perhaps they can't grow, or their people aren't operating the way they want. The performance is down, and we just kind of try to dig deep on those issues and then come up with the recommendations. So it's very similar. I write proposals for organizations, and here I guess you come out with an offer document that explains exactly what you can do and tries to get people to the next stage.
Yeah, so it does sound like there are quite a few similarities overall, perhaps just not on such a big scale when you're working with individuals, especially if they're somebody who's fairly inexperienced coming into online marketing for the first time, perhaps doesn't really know what to expect, or what to realistically expect. But I think having that background that you've got, you can take a really solid approach to diagnosing the potential problems of your prospects and coming up with a tailored solution. I think it's also quite refreshing what you said earlier, that if you're not sure about something yourself, or if you don't think that you're the right person to help, then you'll pass them on to somewhere else. And I don't think there are many in this industry that will do that, because there is a huge level of desperation to make the sale at whatever cost.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a really refreshing approach there. So I like that a lot.
Just to interject on that one, I think something really important from a mindset perspective that I learned really early on is I was going into a lot of those conversations when I first started, and I was being probably as methodical as I would be when I was going into an organization, and I had to change that style. And naturally coming in, I was full of this kind of excitement of, making first sales. And the one thing I didn't have was that kind of nothing in return mindset, and I needed to change that before I could move forward. So I had to lose that really sort of rigid way of going into these meetings that I would perhaps use in a training scenario, to be, again, I think I used it earlier, building rapport, building relationships first, and then moving to that point, because it's a different scenario. So yeah, I think that's really important. But I'm glad you brought that up. I think that nothing in return bit is so important, because this, people smell desperation, and the second you can lose that, you can move forward, I believe.
Yeah, that's some really good advice there. So what I want to move on to now is arguably the most exciting part of of the episode. So what I'm dying to know is, what was the turning point for you? I mean, how did you go from being, I won't say an unsuccessful affiliate, because you were still in the fairly early stages yourself. So you were like, learning about the affiliate marketing, the organic marketing, putting out the content regularly, doing all of the things that so many other organic marketers are doing day to day, and they're not seeing results. But what was the thing that changed for you, which then led to you making this $8,500 commissions in the last 50 or so days?
So quite simply, it was a masterclass that I'd sort of stumbled upon. Really, I was having a discussion with someone who's become quite a close friend of mine, again through the affiliate marketing, and it's just someone I was having a conversation with about what we were doing on a day-to-day basis and the struggles we were having and all those sorts of things. And he mentioned this masterclass, and the focus was on content, using your content to kind of, I suppose, engage and nurture your audience, but then pull people out of that audience as being interested in what you have to offer. And it just changed how I was writing my content. And I suppose the biggest change was being a lot more strategic about my content. I was using, before, I was waking up every morning and I was choosing my posts on the day. Most nights I'd be up until sort of 12 o'clock trying to get those posts out. And I'm a painful perfectionist sometimes, and I find it really difficult to stop when I need to. So a post that started off as a 400-300 word post will become a 800 word post, because it's that I always feel like I need to improve. And so that's something I'm still working on, and it's still not there. But what has helped me massively is that, I suppose, campaign planning. It's really getting into, I suppose, marketing 101. It's, you should be more strategic in how you're looking, what you're trying to achieve, what's your purpose and focus around your content. So I started really looking at a week at a time and thinking about that week as a whole project. So I was writing content that was congruent. It all fitted together. It's still not there, it's still not as good as it could be, but I certainly go into the weeks now being very clear on what I'm trying to achieve. What is the topic I'm trying to, labor on, whether that's, content, mindset, offer creation. It could be anything, it's, but that, I think that, that idea of writing content that all sort of aligns has been really important. And I think it creates, someone used the word omnipresence. It's sort of, you start popping up everywhere talking about the same content. Your stories are going up and they're talking about the same content. You're putting out your posts, they're the same. If you're starting to do lives, which I haven't done many of, and again, that's a hurdle I've got to get over. Things like this are really helpful. So yeah, I think that idea of having this very sort of focused approach is what really helped. And then it came down to frameworks and ideas about how you could write belief shifting posts, to basically take someone from thinking one way to thinking another, and then using, strong CTAs and getting people to actually raise their hands for something you're offering. And really simple principles, but I think just applied properly, I think they make a huge difference. So I suppose that was the main turning point.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting what you say there about the more strategic approach to the content. So when you're writing your content, then would you stick to one topic and then just write about that same topic every day for a week at a time? Is that how you're approaching it now, or are you doing something differently?
Tending to, yeah. I'm trying. Obviously, they're different angles on the same topic. So, for instance, talking about content, there's so many different things you could talk about. So I might almost combine some areas. So I might get into the overwhelm that comes around content and how, having to come up with new ideas every day is very difficult, and how you can solve those issues. There's so many ways you can go. There could be the technical side of writing. How do you write sort of compelling headlines and hooks? And it is just so many ideas around us that we can use. And I think that really gets into the next point about writing good story posts, that people can resonate with. They can feel like, they're in the same position as kind of either same position as you, or they can just resonate with the story, perhaps the analogies that you're coming up with. And I think that's really important to sort of get people to buy into your content, and then by extension buy into you, and you start to build that know, like, and trust through your content.
Okay, so what would you say then is that you're doing differently in terms of writing your content? Because lots of people who are trying to play the organic marketing game, they're writing what we would call these value posts. These very sort of lengthy and wordy posts. They're churning them out day after day, getting plenty of likes and great post style comments and things like that. But they're not making sales at the end of it. So what would you say that you're doing differently? So how does your content speak to your target audience in a way which compels them to either put their hands up and leave a comment asking for your help, or to reach out to you directly in the messenger and becoming an inbound lead for you.
To be honest, I would say something you pointed out there, right, about the length of posts. I think that's one of my downfalls, is that I write really long posts, and it probably goes against the grain in terms of what I should be doing. Um, I just try to write really interesting content. I try to be humorous in part. I try to use kind of analogies, idioms, on ideas about similarities between things, metaphor, and just trying to bring in some of those things that bring content to life a bit. Um, you know, I guess I would actually say that those long posts aren't the ones that really get lots of hands raised. You get some, but they're not the ones. And I think you've got a really good point. Yeah, I've seen a lot of your sort of ideas around content that I really agree with. The results are so important. People want to see the results you're having. And I can already see a huge difference in the engagement and the people that are putting their hands up now that I'm getting results. Um, and it is a really difficult thing when you're starting out, when you don't have those results, because you either have to leverage the results of your community and the people you're working with, or you have to find your own results. And sometimes that just takes, kind of the early grind. And it's often called the hustle. But I think sometimes you just got to do the hard yards, and once you start to get those results, you can start to use them, and I guess use the results to show people that these things can be done. And they're really helpful, I think, in those belief shifting posts, to show that I started here and I got here, and this is how I did it, and you can do it too, because we're no different. And I think that's especially true for me with the 9 to 5 job, showing that it can be done in 2 to 3 hours a night, but you do have to be extremely focused on what you're doing. Otherwise it does become a very overwhelming situation. And I've had a few times where I've been on the edge of burnout, between everything I'm trying to do. So there's been points where I've had to pull back. I've had to take 3 or 4 days off, no content, and just come away for it. And every time I come back, I've kind of really kicked on again. So I think that, again, is, if I would say anything that is really important in this industry, is not to be afraid to take some time out. And there's too much talk about grind it out and keep on hustling, and but it's not worth your mental health, and your business will be so much better for keeping your mindset and mental health in check.
Yeah, there's some really good points made there as well. I mean, we're coming to the end now, but just to kind of wrap things up a little bit here, you've achieved a lot in a relatively short space of time here, because there are people who are doing the grind, as you mentioned. They've been grinding for years in some cases, trying to crack this whole organic marketing thing, and they haven't made anywhere near the sort of money that you've made in this fairly short space of time. And the chances are people are going to be on the brink of burnout. They're going to give up because they're just going to think, well, look, this just doesn't work.
Yeah.
What would the best advice be that you could give somebody who is in that situation right now, who's been slogging away at this, but they're not getting the results that they think that the time and the effort that they're putting in deserves?
I think it's a really difficult one, because a lot of these programs and the coaches and mentors, they cost money, and it's easy to say, if people want to achieve something, they'll find the budget. And I don't really I don't believe in that so much as people are talking about it. I think people do have limited budgets. They've got families to look after. They've got houses to sort of to pay the bills for. And I think, yeah, it's a really difficult question. I think I would just talk to people, ask lots of questions, and don't be afraid. I think there's a lot of this, there's tire kickers out there. But if you're genuine and authentic in the questions you're asking, and you're really looking for help, um, but don't waste people's time, is what I would say. Is ask them genuine questions, really show interest and that you want to learn and grow, and then show it back to them. So if you start to get traction because you're applying what they've said, um, then I think, go back and either show them a testimony, or I should say, provide a testimonial of how they've helped you. And there's a lot of people who do that. I'm doing that at the moment with quite a few people, where I'm doing work with them, doing some coaching, and they're going to give me testimonials off the back if it works for them. And I think there's a lot of people who will do that for you, because there are some really genuine people in this space. But take your time to look for them, and don't be sold into programs until you really know the background, you understand what results come from those programs, and you can generally see that in the community of people working on them. And so yeah, I would just say, look for people you trust, and will give you honest advice. And the next step, I would say, is look for good, strong mentors and coaches, and they're people who are going to support you. So again, do your due diligence, because there's a lot of programs out there who will promise you the world, promise you all this support, but the day you sign up and you pay your X amount of money, that support very quickly disappears. But there's a lot of people who don't do that. So that I guess that's the point, is just make sure you ask enough questions and know what you're getting into before you sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, that's good advice there as well. I like what you say there about the testimonials as well. So there is a bit of the grinding and the hard yards aspect there, because you have to do that work for other people. You need to make yourself useful to other people, help other people get results,
Mm-hmm.
and then in turn they're going to give you that testimonial, which gives you that credibility in the marketplace,
Yeah.
and then positions you as somebody who is able to solve other people's problems as well. And I think that's something that's really important, but is often overlooked, because people are too focused on chasing the sale, getting that money in, rather than actually being able to help somebody else get a result, which people who are on the lookout for an opportunity and are looking for a coach or a mentor, they value that massively. They want to have that confidence in you, that you're able to help them get the result that they want. So I think it is important that you do whatever you can to get that proof, so that you have that to be able to demonstrate to other people. So I think that's a really good point that you've made there. So what are your plans then now for the next 12 months? You've had a whirlwind 2020, 2021 we're in
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
You've had a whirlwind 2021.
That COVID again.
Where you've made some significant commissions in a relatively short space of time. But what would your plans be then for the next 12 months?
I think for the next sort of 3 or 4 months, it's to continue with what I've been doing. It's starting to get some momentum. So I think building on that momentum. And again, I've got to that point where I really want to help people, more than I did when I started, because again, I was new to it. I wanted to get the results, but I have now I've hit that point where I think I can see a lot of people I could really help, and I want to kind of do a lot more of that. And as I said, I was picking up more clients where I'm just working with them for a testimonial, because I think they've got what it takes. And again, I'm looking for people who are real action takers, and and they keep me motivated as well. So when I get involved in things, I'm like, well, I can't wait to get on this coaching call, because that person brings an energy which I can then use for my own business. And I guess I'm that type of person. I feed off other people's energy, and when their energy's low, I kind of get dragged down with it. So it's something I quite enjoy doing. But I would say the next steps are to I think I'll be investing in a personal mentor, just again to have someone to really soundboard ideas with, reflect on what I'm doing, and scale my business, I guess, look for the next steps. And for me, that's going to be to develop my own courses, hopefully drawing on a lot of my experience with training courses and building that side. I got some ideas around e-learning and using that as a medium for some of these courses, rather than like the typical video learning that's in a lot of these courses, which I think is fantastic. But I just think there's perhaps room for different learning styles, and to bring just a new, as I said, platform or medium to the space. So yeah, that's going to be the next hopefully 12 months, and scaling those earnings so that that kind of 8.5K becomes sort of 8.5K a month, and every month. And then perhaps as time goes on, kind of looking a bit more into the passive income side of things. But that's certainly not on the map at the moment. And I am a high ticket through and through.
Excellent. So yeah, sounds like you got plenty of things that's going to keep you busy then over the next 12 months.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to find out more about you or get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
They can come straight into my messenger, for a conversation at the moment. And I'm sure I will continue to offer this. I'm offering a 15-minute kind of strategy game plan call. Absolutely nothing to sell on this call. If a pitch comes your way, you can put the phone down. Very much about understanding what your needs are, where you're trying to get to, me understanding whether I can help you, and then giving some recommendations on next steps. If there's something I think can really help you and there's a next step, then there may be an offer of another call to really get into the down and dirty on strategy and what you can take forward. But I'm also offering kind of a one-page document off the back of those calls with kind of 4 to 5 tips on how I think you can move your business forward, and a kind of a sort of bottom line recommendation, I guess, on how you might go to the next step, whether that be a course, a coach, a program, or literally just do this differently, because a lot of people are in these great programs already. They just need to execute more effectively and do those things. So yeah, I've got a group. I've not been very active in this. It's a new group, but my plans are to really sort of go to town on that. And maybe you'll come and speak on my group, and we can do a little interview at some point. That would be grand.
Yeah, definitely. Just let me know when you want to do that, and we can get that set up. No problem at all.
Fantastic. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm free to anyone wants to chat, just come and hit me up in Messenger.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the episode today, Matt. That
Thank
has
you.
been a really interesting insight into how you can go from zero at the start of the year to almost hitting 5 figures in affiliate earnings completely organically, no paid ads, just by posting content and having conversations with people in Messenger or on Facebook. It sounds amazing.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought it back when I started. I never would have thought that would be the case. So yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind journey.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for joining me on the episode today, Matt. And I'm gonna follow what you're doing with great interest in the coming weeks, and I'll catch up with you again very soon, no doubt.
That's great.
Thanks once again.
Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. Please visit internetmarketingreveal.com and davidwalker.net for more free content. If you need a domain name for your business, visit domainsreveal.com, where you'll find more than 1,000 premium domains. And finally, please rate and review this podcast. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.